Hey everybody, it's John here in the commercial kitchen doing a crew review today, and we have the Rancilio Classe 7 USB tall. That is a mouthful, so I'll break down what some of those numbers mean. Classe is basically what Rancilio calls all their espresso machines, and then that 7 is the designation of where it falls in the model range. So it starts at 5, goes all the way up to 11, which I don't know if is a Spinal Tap reference, but kind of funny. Anyways, USB means that you get these handy buttons and this little screen here. That essentially means that you have volumetric programming. And then tall means that you have more space here between the groups and the drip tray. It also means you get these cool little shelves that we've been referring to as shot shelves, because then you can pull into a shot glass or a pitcher. This tall machine is really designed for a to-go cup to sit right under here, so then you can work really quickly and move. They also have these modular drip trays that make that easy as well, because they drain really well, so then you're not getting the bottom of your paper cup as wet. So that is a pretty well thought out, pretty cool feature. This machine is a 220 volt machine. It has a 6,000 watt heating element, which means that it will require a 30 amp circuit. So pretty standard for 2-group commercial espresso machines, but that higher wattage does mean that it pulls a little bit more power. So this might not be the machine for you if you're doing a mobile setup like a food truck or a coffee cart, because that would require a pretty large generator and you need power for some other things. This has 2 steam wands. You can get this machine with the optional iSteam, which we show on the Rancilio eGrow BYO. That had the iSteam on it, and that's an automatic steam wand that does 2 different levels of foam for either a cappuccino or more like a latte. This has hot water here. This doesn't have a mixing valve on it, so it is that crackly hot water. You can program that volume as well. One cool thing about this machine is the steam wand design. This is called the C lever, or the clever, if you want to say that. If you push, that's your purge setting, and that locks it on. But you can also pull this out and flip it over, and it reverses those. So now up is your purge, down is your on. I like it out here because the hot water spout's right here, so gives you a little bit more clearance there. This is a heat exchanger style machine. That means it has a big steam boiler and a heat exchanger running through it, so it's heating up water on the fly. What that means practically is if you let this machine sit, there's a lot of really hot water sitting in that heat exchanger, and you need to purge that out before brewing coffee. So you can hear that crackling. That was the same noise you heard over here. That's superheated water coming out as it's coming back down to a good temperature for coffee. In a coffee shop environment, you won't notice this because you're pulling a shot, grinding, doing that, coming back here, pulling a shot, grinding, purging in between. So you're working through that water as you go. So it's always going to be at a pretty consistent temperature. It's a little bit of an older design, but it works really well. It allows you to have a ton of steam pressure, almost limitless steam pressure. The steam boiler is actually controlled by a pressure transducer on this machine. So if I let this sit for a little while, it's going to tell me what the boiler pressure is at, if it's 0.95 or 1 or however that looks, but that's where we have that set at. Let's talk about some of the programming features on this machine. One thing that is a little unique about the way the programming works on this, on some machines when you press and hold this, the machine doesn't do anything. On this machine, if you press, it'll start the group before it kicks into any of the programming. Right now I am in the main settings menu, and these 2 buttons here are your plus and your minus. So you can scroll through here, change your clock, timer. You can see how many shots have been pulled on each group. One cool feature is it does have a renew boiler setting. This is helpful if you're in an area with really hard water, because as the boiler gets up to temperature, that steam boiler, it's at over 200 degrees because it's pressurized, and so a lot of minerals that are in the water will drop out and stay behind in the boiler. Those minerals don't come out in steam, and if you're not using your hot water consistently, that stuff just builds up in the boiler. So this renew boiler setting, let me enter in here. It's a simple yes or no. That will allow you to drain the boiler and refill the boiler with fresh water so you have less mineral buildup. That's going to lower your service costs over the long run and make your machine last longer. Pretty cool feature. Let's hit enter there. So that's what that does. While that's doing that, we'll take a break and come right back. That renew boiler cycle finished and we are back. That definitely took a little bit, probably 10-15 minutes. So I would not recommend doing that in the middle of the day. That's definitely an end of the night thing. You don't necessarily have to do that every single night because that's also going to burn through some of your water filter as well, but it is a good feature to have. As we're scrolling through these settings here, you can turn your lights off and on. And that's these flashing lights here that you'll see when we get out of this menu. You can change your language, the clock time, and then you can come in here and set a standby timer, and you have different times for different days of the week, and it'll go into a standby mode to save power when you are closed. And let's exit out of there. Come back through here, and that's everything there. We'll escape. So those are the lights I was talking about there. Let's talk a little bit about programming shot volumes. This works similarly to a lot of espresso machines where you hold down your continuous button, but similar to before where I was holding that and it starts it, it does the same thing. So starts it and then stops. I keep holding this, and now I get into my settings here. And now I can program 1, 2, 3, 4, and then my hot water over here as well. One thing that I don't necessarily like about this is that if you have a shot ready and you put it in here and you forget to put it in programming mode, if you're used to working on another machine, different machines you hold that button, it doesn't start the group. And so if you go in here with your perfectly tamped, perfectly weighed out shot and then try to start the programming function, you're going to ruin that shot by brewing it a little bit and then trying to get into the programming, and you'll have to redo the whole thing. So that's a little bit frustrating. I've definitely done that a couple times, but if this is your only machine and you're completely used to this machine, that's not going to matter that much. One interesting thing here is when you program these buttons, it does not tell you a time. It tells you your flow meter revolutions. So what that means is inside here, this is the same on almost all espresso machines with volumetrics. There's a little meter in there that's spinning around in a circle that's counting the amount of water that's flowing through it. And so that number, when you see that counting up, that's counting the number of times that little thing is spinning around in a circle. And then once you exit out of your programming menu, this now gives you your time in seconds. Another interesting thing, if you use the continuous run, it doesn't count your time in seconds. So that I am not a fan of necessarily, but once you get it programmed, it does hold well and it does do a good job. These buttons also feel really sturdy, so I would not be worried about breaking these buttons or doing anything to damage those. Why don't we go ahead and make a drink on this? Dump that out. I'm going to purge that. And I'm using about 19 grams in this basket here. And I'm going to use my shot shelf and I had this programmed earlier, so that's already set for what I wanted at. Drops at just the right time there, which is nice. So I'm making a mess here. Earlier I had this landing at about 26. Oh, there you go. 26 seconds. I'm going to purge this now. I missed it. There's that. And then I also had this programmed at about 38 grams on the way out. And we're at 39, so that's really close. And if you are making a latte or something like that, you're really not going to notice that gram variance. So that is great for doing drinks quickly and keeping up with the flow of customers. I'm going to grab a cup and taste this. Got my cup, and I'm going to transfer some of this over. I don't need that much coffee because it's late in the day. That's pretty tasty. Today we are pulling the Cali Classic Espresso. That is very tasty from Espresso Republic. And in a second here, I will also make a cappuccino on that. Rinse that out and get another shot going here. I'm going to use my second group. The grinder I'm using today is the Eureka Olympus 75E. And just so you're aware, we did put the upgraded red speed burrs in that, so it might be a little bit faster if you have one of those yourself. But I'm going to get this pulling, grab some milk, and I'll be right back. My shot just finished at 25 seconds, which is just a second shorter than I had it before, which is pretty consistent, especially consider I didn't check any of my weights or anything like that. I'm going to come over here and get this purged. This is not a cool touch steam wand, so if you're used to one of those, you got to be really careful. One of the things that a lot of our staff here has been complimenting on this machine is the steam wand. A lot of people really like how this machine steams, and it creates just super glossy, just really nice milk. I don't know if you can see that too well. But yeah, we've been really enjoying how this steams. It looks like I got a little bit too much for that cup. And I'm going to turn around this way so you guys can see what I'm doing here. And go for it. Nice little double stacked heart there. Spin that around. And we'll give it a taste. It's a little bit hotter than I like my drinks, but that was really tasty. It was easy to make, easy to steam, easy to pull that shot without a lot of effort. Yeah. Who do I see using this machine? This machine is not much of a looker, if I'm being honest here, just with these plastic side panels and just kind of the build quality on it. It's not made fully out of metal. So I don't see this being the centerpiece in a super specialty forward-looking cafe, but this is a workhorse. It has a lot of power, has a lot of ease of use. These buttons are nice and sturdy. I was saying that earlier. It has a lot of functions on it that make maintenance really easy. So I think that I see this as a high volume kind of drive-through situation or a similar cafe like that, where making every single espresso perfect isn't necessarily the focus, but making a good cup of coffee and getting the people out the door is more the focus. So that's who I see having this machine. One more thing I wanted to show you guys was the cleaning on this machine. I'm going to knock this puck as I talk about that. The next thing I want to talk about is the cleaning functions on this machine. It does have automated back flushing, which is a great feature. It saves time for your barista from sitting here turning this on and then turning it off and then turning it on. It actually does both at the same time, and it is a little bit more automated than some machines might be. So similar to those other functions, you access it by holding down the correct button. On this machine, it's this third button. It also has a guide right here that comes on the machine to tell you what some of those buttons do. And switch that to yes, and then press enter. And then it tells you to insert your blind portafilter. So that's the one that doesn't have any holes in it. I'm not going to do that right now, so I'm just going to show you guys what that looks like. Then you would press this flashing button, that's conveniently also the enter. And now it's in the cleaning cycle. So it's going to do this one, and then once it turns this one off, it's going to switch to this one, and then this one stops. And it's going to go through this cycle for a little bit. You would have those blinds in there and some detergent in there, so it would build up that pressure and then turn off the solenoid and kick that back out and clean out the valves, the machine. But a barista could be doing a bunch of other stuff while this is running and not have to worry about this. So that is a nice function, and it forces you to go through the entire cycle instead of having a barista that will shortcut this and only do half the cycle and not do the full cleaning. We'll take a break while this is finishing and come back. This has been a crew review of the Rancilio Class 7 USB tall. I hope you guys learned something about this machine. Maybe it helped you choose this machine for your business, or maybe it just gave you some more information or taught you about some of the programming on this machine. If you have questions that we didn't address in this video, leave them down below in the comments, or if you have suggestions for more videos, leave those down there as well. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and if you want to see more of our content, just make sure to subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a great day.